Hey there, it's Todd Daniele. Today I'm going to go over something in 3D Studio Max 2024. I noticed this trend with people just like making tutorials for all different 3D softwares about making like sci-fi crates and sci-fi toasters and all this nonsense. Um, I do think the techniques are valid, and I think the people are doing a great service by showing these things, but I think it's like an oversaturated kind of tutorial where like all you see is the same thing repeated over and over and over. Um, I don't think in the real world you're going to have the opportunity to just free-form model and make whatever you want, and someone's going to say, oh, that's great, let's use it. So I do think it's a good skill and it should be practiced, and I think like the people showing these techniques are definitely helping you out. But I think what doesn't help out is the idea that you're going to just become a professional and make what you want, and people are going to just be okay with it. So in the real world, you're going to probably get blueprints or images and very specific drawings and things like that and have to follow something. So the techniques may apply, but you're not just going to have fun and bash out something and everybody's going to say, wow, that looks pretty. So I'd actually recommend, if you're following some of these tutorials, if you want to show that work off when you follow something, that's fine, but don't expect that there's like a million people looking for an artist that can make a sci-fi crate. That's not going to happen. So realistically, you could tell I kind of have a thing about this. I've not done a bunch of stuff like that in my professional career, although what I'm going to show today, not long ago I was doing something for a vehicle release, and we had to do like a floor that was sort of sci-fi, and I had to cut up this floor into panels, and this is another great use of the boolean modifier within 3D Studio Max, which I covered in my last tutorial. And I kind of look for inspiration in all kinds of things like electronics, machinery, motherboards, whatever. You can find some interesting shapes and apply it. So without going on too long about this, I'm going to show you my first sci-fi in quotations tutorial. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is just in the viewport, drag out a cylinder and give it a little height. And I'm going to actually make it only have 8 sides. And that's kind of cool because you can kind of tile these together, or you can do 6. Let's see what looks better. Actually, I like 6 better. So 6, we're going to give it no height segments, and we can check the size of it. So right now, 61 centimeters. I'm just going to say it should be 12 feet. And this is also in the last tutorial I did. I showed that you can type in whatever unit of measure you want in these rollouts. So there's a 12 foot by roughly 1 inch. Let's make it 2 inches. So I'm going to say 2 inch. Okay, so 12 foot by 2 inch hexagon. I'm going to just maximize the viewport. And what we're going to do is kind of panel this up a little bit. So the coolest thing I think is to go into the splines and just start like making some interesting patterns. Okay, so I'm going to look for some reference of like a modern motherboard, something like that. And what I found, which has some interesting shapes, is this. You can just see it's just like a panel-y kind of thing, and very typical of what you would find in this kind of, artwork. So with this hexagon, I'm just going to now start to first convert it to edit poly, and then go into splines, and just start to make some interesting shapes. So let's just do it. Drag out and just start clicking, make something that seems kind of interesting, like kind of improvise a little bit. When you're done, close it off, say yes. And I'm going to go to perspective, and I think what I want to do is take the floor or the section and move it up a little bit, so that when I do these extrusions to the pieces I'm going to make from here on out, I don't have to keep adjusting them. I have the floor at a height where they'll intersect. So you'll see in a second what I mean. So if we go here now and I do extrude, turn it on and extrude it, you can see I have a shape now. It's extruded, and now I'm going to go back to the panel and say boolean, so B, boolean, and now the best thing is we have this split or intersect, but I'm going to use split today, and we're going to just say pick this And if I wireframe it, you can see we have like a cutout there, which is actually cut away. So now if I go back to top viewport and do another spline, we'll quickly get something going here. I'm kind of trying to keep the shapes sort of parallel when they're in the same area as another one, like this and this. Just what I feel is the right thing to do. Go back to perspective, and I'll do an extrude again. Should have the values saved, I believe. And you can see because we move that up into the air, I don't have to keep moving these extrusions. So same deal, we'll click on this, and in the same way we did before, we'll say intersect, split. And there we have 2 panels now cut out of that. So we're just going to keep going with some cuts like this. And once I get a few of these done, I'll do a few other little tricks to see what we get. Let's see. Okay, yes. So it's very repetitive, but we can kind of get the gist of what I'm doing here. And extrude, and then go back to this, and split. And there we go. So we're getting like panels and sub-panels. So right now I'm just going to, let's do a couple more. I was going to say I'll pause, but let me do a couple more things. I'll show you something like, I'm going to do the circle spline. I'm going to just drag one out in the viewport, kind of proportion it like that. And the cool thing with this is, if we can convert to editable spline, and grab some segments, you can now shift and drag and do some kind of cloning operation. So by shift dragging, I'm making like a capsule kind of outline. And then if I just rotate that a little bit, maybe get it parallel with this, and I'm just going to do a few of these in a row. So let's just do copy. And there we go. So now I want to attach these just to make it so it's one operand that I'm using. And go to P, extrude them, back to this, and split, and pick those. And we can see now that we have that. So there we go. So we have some quick stuff. I'm going to just now, instead of just using splines, I'm going to do a couple other things too. So above this, I talked about this in my last video, I kind of like to mark off where I have like groups of things done. So I'm going to put an edit poly. And now what I'm going to do is just get a primitive like a box, auto grid, and I'm going to just drag out a box right here. I think I want it longer, like that. Okay. And then I'm going to move it up and maybe do some mods to it. You can also, this is kind of interesting, the boolean modifier doesn't allow you to really modify the operands quite yet. It may happen in the future. So before I get too involved, I'm going to move this where I want it, sort of like that. And what I'm going to do is, it's already an edit poly, that's important. I'm going to shift and drag it out as an instance. And now we're going to just take this one and move it down. And let's just do this. I'm going to rotate it. Move it so it's part within and part without of the mesh. Kind of like that. And I'm going to make a couple copies of it. Well, instances. So 2 of those. Okay. And now I'm going to come here and I'm going to do a new boolean. And we're going to pick, and I'm going to say subtract now. So that. And you can see they went through the bottom of the mesh. I actually don't mind that. I wanted to show you something different. But what I'll do is modify just one of them. So let's take this one, and I'm going to say manipulate the operand. And it has these little circles. If you click on the circle and you move that up a little. Yeah, sometimes I have an issue with this. I must be doing something not exactly right. So let's try it again. Click this. There we go. So now if I come back to the instance that I base these on, and I just come in here and grab an edge and say chamfer, I'm going to just chamfer that quite a bit and add some segments and say OK. And you can see they've all updated with the chamfered edge, the instances I used to boolean, which is kind of cool. Now that said, I kind of like the way the first two were going through the bottom of it. So I'm going to just select this one and move it down, and the same with this one, move it down. It's just an interesting detail. So now if I wireframe it, you can see we have like some cutouts, some zigzags, we had splines all over the place, we have solid objects. I'm going to do a cylinder really quick on the surface, same as we did for before, and I might just put one right here. Let's just do it here. Pull it up. Okay, and I'm going to give it more sides. I want it to be smooth, so I'm actually going to give it a decent amount of segments, like 48. I'm going to push it down all the way through, and now if we go to here to Boolean, I'm going to say subtract and click on that, and we see that's now part of the whole setup here. So what you can do is continue to populate. So I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to pause my recording, and I'll jump ahead a bit and show you something a little further along, and then we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so we're a little further along here, and I added some more detail to this. And what I wanted to show is I made like a little collection of rectangular splines here that fit within this arch, and you can do multiple objects as opposed to one at a time as I've been doing in the video. I'm going to just select one of these splines. It's an edit spline, and say attach multi. You can see these are all listed. These are the splines. They have the spline icon. Control and A to select them all and attach. Now it's one object. If I add an extrude to that, you can see I have one object, and I'm going to just go to the tile. I'm going to add a new boolean modifier right here, and that's just because I'm recording and I had to do a little edit. So I'm going to just say split, attach that, and now I have those incorporated in one object kind of operand kind of thing. So I think that's pretty handy to do. You can do a lot more of that like in the areas I had done earlier. If you were to populate out this whole thing and have it complete, the next thing you would do is say, all right, well, it doesn't really show when you look at it like this. You don't see anything, and that's because these edges are right up against each other. So with all of this live, I can go right above this in a stack and put a chamfer modifier, and let's just see the value here if I can see what's going on. I think what you want to do is set segments to 2, and 2 makes it a rounder corner. And then the important thing to take note of is if you have small detail or smaller detail and you make the chamfer too big, you'll start to get like artifacting like this. So it's really important to like zoom around this thing and see what works as far as the value. And I kind of like them tighter. I used to be more like a little over exaggerated as far as the size, but you can see here that that kind of works, and you can see that we have some shading artifacts. I'm going to fix that in a second. Just to fix that, let me just show you. We'll do weighted normals, and you can see that cleaned it up. Now there is something still here though. When I stumbled across this little instance before with the rounded corner and I liked it, if you look right here, there's some oddness going on. And I'd have to really reduce the overall chamfer of everything around this object on all these edges to get that to go away. And that's just a result of if I turn these two off, there's like a little line there. You could delete that out, like backspace that line out, but I kind of want to keep this live. So maybe I'm going to go back to the original object. And I think what I'm going to do is go to left, front viewport, and just take these verts here. I'm just gonna maybe collapse them or get rid of some edges. Actually, let's do the edge route. So I'm gonna just do 1, 2. I'm gonna get rid of all these, not all of them, but most of these edges. And then this one. And just restore that to sort of square. Okay. And now if I go back, you can see, let's see, it updated here. And now if I chamfer and do weighted normals, we still have a little bit of that going on right here, and I think it's just because of the position of the boolean. So let's try that. Box. I'm going to move it down a little bit. And that actually looks like it fixed it. So the point being that like it's not always going to be perfect, but you can make adjustments and you can visually see what's going on. These chamfers now look better. And then the one that's sort of halfway through, that looks fine too. So again, I would just, before you lock anything down, look everything over and make sure that it works. Okay, so that looks pretty cool. Obviously, you could do the rest of this, and then I'm going to just show you one more tip. Okay, so let's just assume that this is all done, and we want to add more detail to certain areas. We just saw that we had an issue with chamfer, where like if the detail was too small or something like that, or if we had the radius too big, it would obliterate detail. So what we could do is if we come below the chamfer and the weighted normals and above the boolean, I could put an edit poly. Or we can make an instance of this mesh or a copy of this mesh where it's not live anymore and collapse it if we're happy with everything. But what we can do is come in here and go to element, and let's just say I don't want to screw up the chamfers on everything, but I want more detail on this particular panel. I can detach it. So I'm going to just detach, and it's no longer part of that whole thing that we have going on. And then if I come to that by itself, I'm just going to isolate using Alt and Q. I can now, with this piece, go to a further level of detail. So let's do that. I'm going to make some smaller detail. I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to make a circle, F3 so we can see it, and make an editable spline. And then just grab two segments and shift and drag that and say, okay, that looks good, right? And now what I want to do is make a bunch of copies or clones of it. I'm going to actually do copy and do like, I don't know, let's do 12. And that looks cool. Maybe I want to do a few other things like put some stars in here. I don't know. We used that on the last tutorial when I made the ice cream. And let's just make the radiuses smaller and just make a few of these. And maybe grab them, clone them. That's a shift drag to clone them. Offset them a little bit. I'm going to get the one off the edge. I'm going to try not to break the edges of anything when I'm doing this today, just because I don't want to have to deal with that. So let's just grab this piece, all of these, isolate it again, Alt and Q, and now I'm going to just attach all this spline. So I'm going to make this one editable spline, say attach multi, everything in the list can go because that's all the splines that are in the viewport, extrude, and we see we have it. And now what I'll do is this piece will now get a boolean modifier, and I can either subtract them or I kind of like the look of the split, but let's do subtract this time. And that quickly we have that, right? So now if I unhide all, we can see we have a higher level of detail on that particular panel. And cool thing by isolating it, this retains its chamfers and nothing's been destroyed. And in this piece, if we need to adjust the chamfer when I turn it on, which we do, you can see it's bleeding over the edge and stuff, we can have isolated control of that one particular piece, and that looks like a good value. Turn up that, and you can see now that that particular piece is treated slightly differently, has more detail, and you can see also it has artifacts, so same deal as before, weighted normals. I usually find that in the box it works, but you can adjust it. And we can see you could do that all across all this and pretty much have an infinite level of detail, depending on your chamfers and what you want to do as far as chamfering. But I think like those small details, we're never going to, if you were going to get close up on them, then you could adjust. I mean, they're holding up pretty well anyway. But you can see like when I had to do this floor for this piece, this is exactly what I did. And then if I wanted to take this, clone it as a copy or whatever, You can jam them up against each other, and because this shape will actually tile pretty well with itself, out of one you can make many. And you can see it's pretty cool looking. It won't deform and bend and stuff. That's a whole nother tutorial, which I may do, but I don't want to get caught in that making a dozen sci-fi tutorials. I think that's crap. So I just wanted to show what we can do with the boolean modifier and some simple, drawing splines using primitives, chamfer, weighted normals, and making what used to be something I would have had to either make and figure out a way to get clean chamfers on, or something I would have had to make as a sub-D model, we can now do quickly and easily using these new modifiers. So things have come a long way. Again, you're not going to get to just freeform and do what you want in the real world, so keep that in mind. But it's good practice. So now that if you've gone through this and done this, if the situation arises where you need a piece that looks or has this kind of detail or some sort of detail, you know how to do it. You know the limitations. It can't be bent and deformed the way it is right now currently. You might be able to remesh or use it as a base to make something that's a little bit better if you needed to. But in my experience, anytime I've been asked to make hard surface kind of things like this, they're usually not deforming. I have made trucks and cars that needed to be dented up, but that's a sub-D circumstance where I would properly model that and prepare that I would, make dents and conform the mesh to the dent or whatever. So anyway, this is my second tutorial. Please like and subscribe below, and I hope to bring you more content. I'm going to try to keep this going. I hope this was helpful, and this will be probably the last sci-fi tutorial I'm doing, just because I just don't believe in doing repetitive over and over the same thing. I see a lot of that going on. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying, if you want to really help people, you have to show them more than one trick. You can't be a one-trick pony. So until the next video, I'm Todd Daniele. Thanks. Bye.